Welcome back. We're back again. 32 teams, 32 days. Roster the people. It's still summer, and we continue the trip around the AFC West. Here it comes. Just like the AFC South, Mike. For whatever reason, we do them. They go in order alphabetically by city. I don't know why. It's just the way that it goes. That's the way the divisions work. So, Chiefs yesterday, Raiders today. So, Neil Smith at that F nerd, Jason Draven at Michael Burland. We're back again. We're continuing what we've been doing, which is 32 teams, 32 days. This is your official draft primer for the 2024 fantasy season. And we just continue to go team by team and just updating everybody and getting you ready for draft weekend, which is coming up in a month. And I say that because today is the 7th of August. So if anything we say sounds fishy, that would be why. So check out the wrap-up show, which is scheduled for the 31st. We're going to go through and update any takes that we've made throughout the preseason, throughout just the offseason in general that need to be updated as things change. Standard rules apply. This is all based on 12-team PPR redraft, standard 16-round draft. That's kind of the most popular format at this point. That's the baseline. You'll hear us reference a lot of rankings and ADPs. Those come courtesy of Fantasy Pros. Shout out to Fantasy Pros. We are still a Fantasy Pros affiliate. Love working with them. Jason and I's individual rankings get slushed into the ECR. And if anything is dramatically different, we'll bring up our own rankings and our own projections and yada, yada. We'll also talk about any weird format things that we need to on a per player basis as we go through this. In many ways, I teased it yesterday. In many ways, this is the antithesis of the Chiefs, where you had lots of very high priced things that have a lot of expectations. This is the opposite of that. This is not that. And before we get into the Raiders specifically, remember last year when all the teams in this division were trying to make their argument for going to the playoffs? Remember that?
Past 2 years.
How times change. Life comes at you fast. Because now you have the Chiefs that I think are almost nothing in life is guaranteed, but I think it would not be unfair to just give them four wins just by virtue of the division they play in.
So you're assuming that Denver loses twice, and then Raiders and Chargers lose at
That'd be once,
Chiefs.
But not so much that. I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think they can. What I mean is, I think they can sweep one of their division opponents. I don't know which one, but I think they could sweep one. We'll see how it goes, because it's the NFL and weird stuff happens any given Sunday. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like it's that type of thing. Like sweeping divisional opponents, as we know, is very difficult, even when they are inferior to you. So I don't think they could get them all, but I think they could get one. Which one it is, it's hard to say. Broncos, very likely. That would be what Vegas thinks. But I'm not Mason nor Mivachol, so I'm not here to give you that level of granularity. I'm just saying I think the Chiefs, basically by virtue of their division, are almost guaranteed. You can't guarantee anything in this world, but I think they're almost guaranteed 4 wins, like coming into it this year, because that's what it is, folks. Their competition has gotten much worse than what it was over the last couple of years. So we're going to dive right into it. So remember when there was all these expectations last year for Jimmy Garoppolo, like Jimmy G coming in, great year with the 49ers, and now doping scandal allegations, got hurt, like got benched. Like, so it's not even Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. That didn't take long. So now we're staring down a quarterback competition that is still actively happening. So we're about to hit week 1 preseason here on Thursday. And all the reports are that Minshew, it is Gardner Minshew, the return of the stash. You can't keep a good man down. And he's once again competing for a starting job. I absolutely love it. You cannot get rid of this man.
And in a great place for him, too.
It really is a great place for him.
From Jacksonville to, I mean, there's a
brief layover with the Colts, you know.
He had to stay in the middle for a second, and then he was like, nah, not for me, dog. Off to the next spot. So, yeah. Vegas
gotta love it. Like, so you've got Gardner Minshew, who they've brought in to compete for a job, because his competition is last year's starter for a good chunk of the season, Aiden O'Connell, who that's nice that Aiden O'Connell got some starts last year, and good for
Also
him.
a stash?
Little bit, but not nearly the legendary stash that is Gardner Minshew, the undisputed Mr. Mustache, like the guy with the mustache that you think of. Like Josh Allen grew a mustache too, but we don't think of him as the stash. You know what I mean? There's only one, and it's Gardner Minshew. You see a mustache like that, and you know you're in good hands. Whether he's working on your breaks or playing quarterback in the NFL, you see a mustache like that, and it's like, yes, this fills me with confidence that this is a man who knows what he's about. Like, I would kill to be able to grow a mustache like that. Like, I could grow a pretty significant mustache, but oh boy, it is. Could you imagine Gardner Minshew in like the 1880s with like the full pomade? Because he could do it. Like, if anybody I've seen could do it, he could have the luxury mustache with all of the accoutrement. Like, it is a sight to behold.
It'd be so funny to see him with handlebars, though.
Oh yeah, the Raleigh fingers. Nobody gets any of my references. No one watching this, Jason does, but nobody out in the world knows who Raleigh fingers is anymore.
Oh, yeah, no way.
They're probably sitting there like, that's inappropriate. You can't call people that. Like, and it's like, no, that was his name. That was the man's name. I didn't make that up. Like, I'm not clever enough to make that up. I wish I was. But this whole situation is it's weird because normally it's like, Neil, you're not doing the show right. You go into ADPs and ECR, and there's a rhythm. You know what I mean? Well, we're not doing that right now because there is no ECR, or there is an ECR, but it's not relevant because he's outside draftable range, and there is no ADP for either of these players. And it's because right now we're still watching a quarterback competition happen in real time. This week, for the week one, they're each going to play a quarter, is what the team is reporting. And then next week, they're probably going to flip it and do the opposite. And then by the time we get to 2 weeks from now, I think we'll have a real opportunity to know in a real way who is going to be starting opening day. So I kick it to you, gentlemen. Who are you rooting for? Who do you want to see win this job?
Minshew. Like, it's not close for me.
Okay.
I have
Jason's
him
got
set
a
as a
definitive
starter.
opinion. I love it. Definitive opinion. I love it. Mike.
All right. I don't really care, to be honest.
There you
it
go.
means
Okay.
no difference
That's
to me.
most people's attitude.
I don't. One quarterback, it's nothing. For the skill position players, they're the same guy to me. So
no,
I don't agree
really
with
care.
that. As an assessment, I don't agree with that either. I think Minshew is significantly better than Aiden O'Connell.
I mean, we're talking about Gardner Minshew
for fantasy. For fantasy,
Minshew threw what, 15 touchdowns last year?
In call it what, 2/3 of a season he played?
I mean, they're the same.
Game. He threw a touchdown in game. Let's go with that.
I mean, he 13 games started, so yay, touchdown a game. Like, it's not. We're not. Nothing's exciting about these quarterbacks.
Anthony
I'm
Richardson.
sorry.
Oh snap! Yeah, he also ran in a bunch of them. But let's not bog down into that.
Yeah,
let's not bog down into that comparison. Yeah.
We hate Richardson for everyone else, but yeah. No,
sorry.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to hype up Gardner Minshew for the receivers or whoever. So they're the same guy. It doesn't matter. They're going to hyper target Devontae Adams. So
there you go. That's really what we care about as it relates to this conversation, because neither of those two guys is draftable in their own right. Gardner Minshew is a reckless individual who throws into double coverage and has a lot of turnovers, but he also does some really spectacular stuff, and he's got a little bit of a rushing floor. Aiden O'Connell, less rushing floor, still throws into double coverage, to Mike's point about being the same guy. Also just wildly erratic. And I'm just not sold on Aiden O'Connell. Do I think it matters for the skill position players? Not tremendously. So I agree. This is kind of like, I would prefer Minshew just because I know what that is, and I've seen him have success at a professional level at a more there's more sample. So I would feel better about that just from a fantasy perspective as it relates to the skill position players. And that's really all there is to it. It's not a deep thing. You know what I mean? But I can tell you Mike's opinion is the one that most experts and the public holds, which is, I got more important things to worry about in my life. And I don't disagree necessarily. I think that's not invalid, right? Like, it's not a crazy hot take. Because really, as we'll go through, there's one skill position player that we care about, really. And we'll get there in a moment. So you're not drafting either of these guys. It's just a question of who do you think wins the job. And I would prefer Minshew slightly just because I know what that is a little bit more and I can predict it. Whereas Aiden O'Connell scares me for various reasons. It doesn't matter. Neither one of these guys is the long-term answer as to who's going to be playing quarterback for this team in the future. This is just where we are. This team is rebuilding. They tried over the last several years to do stuff, and it failed horribly because of bad front office decisions and bad coaching hires. Stop me if you've heard that before, by the way, as it relates to this team. Seems like we're in like a loop, like a just a big loop that we used to have the Denver Broncos wheel of decision making, whereas in most organizations it was a flow chart, but in Denver it was a circle. And it feels like that's where we've arrived with this team, where it's like it's not a flow chart of who's in charge making decisions. It's like a circle that we walk in as it relates to this team, and so it's very frustrating. So we'll get into things that matter a little more. Don't worry about the quarterback. You're not drafting any of these guys. I could see in a very deep league during buys in like week 13, I could see this maybe mattering as a backup. And you guys will talk about that on Monday that week, and we'll readdress it then. We mentioned...
Or in a super flex. Could be useful.
Maybe. Even then, I'm like, boy.
I got him real cheap in our Dynasty League. So.
There was a reason. There was a defined reason.
It works out great.
That was in July also. So, like...
Still counts.
Running back is where you're going to start noticing real changes. So we mentioned Garoppolo moving on, quarterback. Yeah. It's a total rebuild. So what's more noticeable is Josh Jacobs is no longer on this roster. We talked about Josh Jacobs. He's playing for the Packers now. He's no longer on this team. It opens up a tremendous amount of work for anybody that is on this team currently. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of vacated carries and a lot of vacated targets. So with that, what you find is Zamir White, who's been on the team for a couple years, kind of struggled to gain traction. According to Antonio Pierce, he's going to be the guy. And I don't normally buy into what coaches say, but Antonio Pierce is kind of the exception where he's developed a track record of he just tells you what he's going to do and then does it. And normally my advice is don't listen to what coaches tell you because they lie to you and they have no incentive to tell you the truth. And then there's Antonio Pierce, who's like, no, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And then he does it. And I'm like, that's so weird. Like, it's so strange to have a coach that actually tells you what they're going to do and then follows through with it. Like, it's the opposite of Mike Tomlin.
The gumption to do so.
Testicular fortitude?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Totally able to do this, not without having to worry about it.
The balls? He's got the balls? He's got the chutzpah?
As long as it works, man. And so, to be fair, there's not really any competition for White.
No, we'll get into that real quick. So Zamir White, projecting to be the guy, opens as the RB23 in the ECR, which would translate to 76 overall by ranking. His ADP is 68. That is insanely cheap for a guy who is purported to be the guy. So it seems like nobody is totally sold on this. Jason, what's your Zamir White takeaway for people playing at home?
I mean, this is where I have him ranked. The ranking's perfect. I wish he was a little cheaper, based on like, granted, I have Pacheco a couple spots higher, but even then, the fact that he's in comparing the two, it's such a good deal.
We covered this yesterday. You are never going to get Pacheco that low. Pacheco will be long gone by the time this conversation's happening.
But for anybody who's running 0 RB, that's not a bad start. Because this is what, the sixth round?
Sixth round. Middle of the sixth round is what it would be.
Yeah, that works out. That would be, you already have all the other positions, so now you grab your first RB, and it's likely an RB2. Yeah, works out great.
that's not really what I would call zero RB. But
well, to be fair, there is no such thing unless it is all flexes. There's like that. That's the other. It really annoys me that it's called zero RB because it's not a thing.
Well, I'd also argue that zero RB is not a thing. That's actually correct. This is one of the weird times where you and I agree. Like that, 100% in agreement with you on that. That's not really a thing, but okay. But okay, sure. Mike, where are you at with Zamir White?
Yeah, he feels like I feel like every year there's a running back in particular that we underestimate, and just like because we were not sure how we feel about him. Is he really good? Rashad White felt a little bit like that last year from just the community. Just like, we don't want to buy
You're
in.
all
So
crazy.
Y'all
are nuts.
He was
I was so high on that, and it paid off its spades. Like, but yeah, I know your general point.
So
your general point.
The point being is like Jason said, there's no one to be afraid of behind him, and that was the case for Rashad White last year. So it's like, yeah, this could be just like, oh yeah, why didn't we draft Zamir White even sooner? Not saying he's going to be a top 12 guy necessarily like White was, because I don't know if he's going to do much in the passing game, the receiving game. But this is a guy who was getting 20 plus carries at the end of the year last year when he took over for Jacobs. Antonio Pierce wants to run the ball and play defense, so he's going to get, if they keep the game close, Zamir White's going to have 20 plus carries every game that's not out of hand. So I kind of like where it's at. It's not a sexy pick, but I'll take it. I'll take Zamir White this year.
It is a very workman's approach too. This feels like old school fantasy. This reminds me of like playing back in the day, where we're looking for values at running back. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh man, makes me homesick for the old way this game used to be played. And but I will say, so we'll do it this way: Zamir White and Najee Harris go one spot from each other. So Zamir White or Najee Harris?
White.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I'll go with Zamir White. It's
that
kind
was
of
a rousing endorsement. That was a route. Boy, oh boy, the enthusiasm for that was through the roof. How about?
They just feel like the same person.
I don't know that they are the same necessarily, because Najee Harris is going to be splitting a significant amount of work with Jalen Warren, who I think is significantly better than anybody else on the Raiders. I think Jalen Warren's actually better than Zamir White. That's a whole different conversation. Like, if Jalen Warren was on a different team, I think Jalen Warren would be going like 3 rounds ahead of where he, bless you. All right, let's do this. Let's do this a different way. 3 picks ahead of Zamir White, DeAndre Swift.
White.
Yep, White.
Okay. Interesting. We're starting to get somewhere. Top of the round, David Montgomery or Zamir White in the middle of the round.
Still White.
No, you're insane. That's an insane statement by an insane person. David Montgomery is being undervalued by like a full round.
I understand that, but
like,
one guy has the full job. The other is going to be splitting with a very talented back that should earn more touches.
I don't really. I think David Montgomery buries him on touchdowns.
Yeah, and another thing is we got to acknowledge we think he has the full-time job. Right. Alexander Mattison was kept in a glass box and protected in the preseason by the Vikings last year, and they said, "Please, you're our guy." And then like 5 weeks in, they're like, "Oh crap, he's actually not that good," So there's the chance of Zamir White, and funny enough, Alexander Madison's the backup, but there's a chance that Zamir White's not good.
So we do have that. The backup is Alexander Mattison. People are so frustrated with Alexander Mattison that he has no ADP. He is not being drafted. It's like that. People are just done with Alexander Mattison. And I say kudos to you, America. You've learned. You're learning. We are learning. I've criticized for years about how people don't learn, like they don't learn lessons. We're learning. We are learning that Alexander Mattison is not good, and his yards per attempt are poor. And he is just a ham and egger. He's this generation's Chris Ivory. That's what it is. Like, he's a plotter. He's not good. So that's the only backup. But that being said, we don't really know what Zamir White is. So for me, it's like you're you're getting a little bit of a discount. But what I liked so much about Rachaad White was that, and the reason I was so high on him was because I was convinced that based on what he projects to be in the NFL and what he did in college, that he would be a target machine. And he was. And I don't feel that way about Zamir White. He might be. There are targets available. Will they go to him? It's very possible, but we don't know. And so this is a weird one where there is some upside here. So I think I agree, like this is about the right place for this. But I might be more inclined to take a Najee Harris just because I know what I'm getting. And then the DeAndre Swift one, I'm probably more inclined to take Swift, but that's a tough one because Swift, you know the injury concerns, and you also know that he's on the Bears, but what is that really? Like, there's some real question. We have entered the part of the draft at this point where all the running backs do have very obvious question marks by the time you get to here. So that's where it is. This is why I don't recommend going the 0 RB approach, especially this year, because it's like, have you seen running back this year? It's kind of a giant tire fire. There's like 5 guys that you feel good about, and then the rest of that is like everybody's got some kind of problem. They're either on a new team or something. Like there's some kind of issue. Does anybody? And then finally, they did draft Dylan Laub. Does anybody have anything nice to say about Dylan Laub?
He's a good pass catcher.
He is a good pass catcher. And you have now arrived at where I was headed, which is Zamir White the pass catcher on this team, or are they throwing Dylan Laub out there to see what they got?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought I heard, and I couldn't find actually where, if there's a source about this, but I thought that I heard that they're like, Zamir White is not touching the field when they get anywhere close to like third down. And pass protection situations. It's like, no, thank you.
I read the same thing. That comes from the beat writers Twitter follow channel, and I highly recommend following the beat writers aggregator channel on Twitter. We also link to it on our Discord. It's very, very educational. If you want good information, follow the beat writers. That's how you get good information. And Mike, I've seen the same thing, which is Zamir White scares me because unlike Rachaad White, where they were like, third down, get Rachaad White out there, baby. Like 100%. He's out there to catch passes. It's like they don't trust Zamir White to do any kind of pass pro. And I don't know what that's going to mean. Whereas Laub, it's like, well, that's kind of what he projects to be in the NFL. Is a guy, we don't really know about his pass pro either at the NFL level because he's a rookie. Mm-hmm. But he projects as to be the hands guy to go out there on third down. And that's what scares me, is that if Zamir White is just the first and second down running back and you're taking him in the 6th round, you've way overdrafted. So that's the problem here, is that if he was just the between the tackles runner on first and second down, 10th round pick, you've overpaid by 4 full rounds.
Yeah.
And that's the concern here, is that you might be getting something great, but you have to know that you're playing with fire a little bit here. And in a PPR league, you might be real sad as you're watching Zamir White jog off the field when they go hurry up or when they get into critical third down situations. That's the concern that I have for this. If you're less scared of that than I am, draft with confidence. You're getting a great discount. But you got to know that that's the concern here. So there you go. And then, by the way, I'm not drafting Dylan Laub either. You don't need to. That's something that you can pick up off the waiver wire if it ever becomes a thing at some point later. Same thing with Alexander Madison, by the way. If it ever becomes a thing, it's firmly waiver wire fodder. You don't feel the need to draft any of that. And just, if you want Zamir White, you are getting the risk is baked in a little bit, but just be aware of the idea that the floor, if he doesn't catch passes, is significantly lower than what it looks like. And then wide receiver, this is going to be quick. So wide receiver, it's Devontae Adams. It's the only thing on this team that actually matters and that anyone actually cares about, except for Jason, who lives on planet Jason. Devontae Adams opens as the wide receiver 10, translates to 16 overall in the ECR. He's going at 17 overall. I have no notes on this. That's about what it should be, because he's going to get force-fed And that's the way that this is going to go. I think the rumors of Devontae Adams' death because he's getting older have been greatly exaggerated. Because what exactly is his competition? Father Time? Like we're all competing against Father Time? Everyone on this call right now is competing against Father Time. And Father Time is undefeated. But I'm not scared of Devontae Adams suddenly falling off a cliff this year. Maybe in another couple of years. But not this year.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a good player.
No.
If you watch receiver at all, kind of really like the guy. He's a very likable person. That is for sure.
He does seem like a likable guy. Limited sample. It's just on it's TV, so it's heavily edited too. So it's but from what you saw, yeah, he does seem like a likable guy.
Yeah. And so it's also he's a player. And so he wants to win. That's why he's there.
Well, he wants his next contract.
Which usually involves winning.
Yeah. Well, if not winning, 1,000-yard season.
Yeah.
Winning could be explained away for a number of reasons on this team. But if you hit 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, yeah, that's hard to, even on a bad team, people are going to be like, and then also there's body of work.
Yeah.
That comes along with this.
And doing it with different quarterbacks also helps and different offensive systems. And so him continuing to have success is pretty much a staple of being Devontae Adams. So
yeah. And I think the rumors of him being a trade candidate and trying to get traded are vastly overblown. I don't think that's real. Like,
if it happens, it'll be playoff time. The Raiders will have officially given up.
Yeah, maybe then. Where are you at, Mike?
No, I agree. Only thing I'll add is I do think his ceiling is capped because of the quarterback play. So that's kind of the argument. It's like he's in that range of like Marvin Harrison, Olave London, and Marvin Harrison. I think could be a top 5, top 3 wide receiver. London, if everything goes right, could be. And I don't know Adams can get there, but I do think he's going to be top 10 to 12 pretty safely. And, there's obviously a little bit more upside than that. I just don't know if he can get to like that, what he was with Rodgers or even Carr in 2022. So that's the only argument against him, but I'm totally fine with where he's going.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know Steve still has Devontae Adams as a tier 1 wide receiver option. And I think that's just going to continue until eventually the wheels inevitably do come off. But I don't think anybody's going to do anything about that until it finally happens. And I just don't think this is the year. I do agree, Mike. There is some, if you're looking for warts at any level, quarterback play, I think, is the number one concern. So I'm right there with you on that. That being said, if it is Gardner Minshew, I've watched Gardner Minshew prop up all kinds of wide receivers, even though he himself is not that great. So that's the other reason where I'm like, give me Gardner, just because I know that he could support.
He will throw.
He could support at least one wide receiver. That's what he can do. I know he can do that. Aiden O'Connell should be able to do that. I haven't seen it. So there you go. Beyond that, it goes off a cliff pretty aggressively. Next man up is Jacoby Myers. Love Jacoby Myers. The talent, always have. So sad for Jacoby Myers, the person who is dealing with this. I feel so bad for Jacoby Myers because he does not deserve this. But this is it. So Jacoby Myers opens as the wide receiver 49, which would translate to 117 overall. His ADP is 134. The public is like, nah.
This is telling me I'm going to have a lot of Jacoby Myers on my team.
Yeah.
That's what I get from this. Because, last year, he had flashes. Ended as a wide receiver 24. Had games where he scored over 20 fantasy points multiple times.
And then disappeared and did nothing in a very frustrating manner.
Doesn't matter.
We would be remiss to not mention that.
I know, but they have him at wide receiver 49. That's part of the reason it also is, again, propped up by Minshew, who was able to support both Pittman and Downs at a pretty significant clip last year.
Until Downs got hurt in week 9 and then was a shell of himself for the rest of the year.
So, again, that's, of course, baked into this a little bit. At that price point, though, he's probably going to be on all of my teams. I mean, he's super inexpensive. His upside is, like I just said, he was wide receiver 24 last year in PPR to end the year. And if you can get that at the 10th round, yeah, okay. 11th round?
11th round.
Okay. It's double digits. Yeah, I'll take that all day. Real consistent play. Well, not consistent, but he has big games. Like, I'm pretty sure last year it was 4 or 5 20-point fantasy games. And they used him everywhere. It didn't matter when it was. So, also when, granted, it was Aiden O'Connell, got in trouble, Myers was his go-to. While Adams got it done, Myers was the one who was sucking up a lot of the time when they needed that first down. So, again, wish he was on a different team because he's super talented. Hate the fact that he's behind.
Me too. I miss when he was on the Patriots, even just because he was so much better than everyone else they had that it was just really obvious watching the games where it's like, oh, he's good. The rest of you, I don't think so. But that guy
can
like,
catch balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't see enough targets at that point, which is also frustrating. So who knows? But yeah, I'll end up with a lot of Myers for sure.
Mike, you want to throw some cold water on Jason, or are you co-signing that?
I mean, we're talking about an 11th, 12th round pick. I agree with you guys. I like him. I think he's a good player, a good wide receiver. And I will just say he was much better with Garoppolo and O'Connell. So a lot of his big games in the beginning of the first 8 weeks of the season, it came with Garoppolo. So obviously Garoppolo's not there. But yeah, I mean, Myers, 11th, 12th round pick. Sure, why not? You know, he's a bench guy at that point, so I don't hate it.
I'm all right with it, but I need people to understand that the reason the ADP is the way that it is because bad quarterback play, bad team, and people also remember last year how frustrating rostering him was because you're not getting any kind of consistency. And that's crazy when you think about the type of player that he is, where he should be a volume-based individual, and he's not. And he's not a field stretcher. So you're just dealing with a situation where it's like Hunter Renfrow is gone. So they'll vacate some of that, but that's not actually that much in reality.
I know, but that's pretty much what he is now, is the Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, but Hunter Renfrow was also supremely frustrating.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge there's a real chance that Jacoby Myers is either the second or third target getter on this team at the end of the year. But you're dealing with something that is going to be really frustrating. It's going to be the frustrating roller coaster. It's just what it's going to be. So you're going to have him on your team and he's going to be on your bench, and it's just going to be supremely annoying because there's going to be some weeks where he just puts up like a 30 on your bench. And you're just sitting there like, what happened? And it's just going to be really hard to find that confidence to want to start him. And that's why you're getting this discount. Because if you go by the ECR is already baking in some of that based on what his finish was last year and what the projection is for this year. And the public is like way out on this. So I do understand the attraction to want to like bring him in. But I just need everyone to understand that, yes, it is a very good value, but you're going to be frustrated week to week with this. You're going to have a hard time putting them in your lineup and trusting that this is going to work out for you. So just understand that there's some volatility if this is going to be the way that you go. Next man up is Trey Tucker, who has no ADP and is not being drafted, and that is correct. Don't worry about Trey Tucker. And then not worried about that. And no, Calvin Austin III is no longer on the Steelers. That's if that's wrong, then Fantasy Pros is wrong. Because I pulled that this morning.
He's still on the Steelers.
Then Fantasy Pros is wrong, and go send and go send your hate mail to Fantasy Pros because there you go.
Yeah.
Because Fantasy
they don't
Pros has
really
him
have
listed.
any.
Fantasy Pros has him listed as a Raider. So there you go. I also thought that was weird. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, how did I miss that? Well, Fantasy Pros, I'm sorry, but you have your website is wrong.
The point being is they have no one really to talk about after, Adams and Myers.
Yeah, because we're not worried about Trey Tucker, and they're not gonna be able to support 3 pass catchers, which actually segues me neatly into my next topic. They now have 2 tight ends. They have Jason. You're on mute. You're on mute, Jason.
What?
He's on mute. He's been on.
Oh,
mute.
my bad.
Yeah.
I was coughing. I was like, to be fair, they've always had 2 tight ends.
Yeah, but now they have 2 that people care about to a certain degree. So they have shiny new toy. Brock Bowers opens as the tight end 11. Would be 105 overall. His ADP is 100. Y'all lost your damn minds. You've all taken leave of your senses. It's insanity. And then they still have Michael Mayer, who is not even being drafted anymore. And I don't understand. Can someone help me? Help me understand why this is happening. Why?
Shiny new toy.
Shiny new toy?
That's the only thing I got. I have no idea why.
It's
That's where all the targets are going.
It's the Sam Laporta effect too.
We saw one rookie tight end in 2 decades have some success. What about a second tight end in 2 decades have some success in their rookie season?
Weren't they saying about Meyer last year?
They say that about
just wanted to double check.
They were saying that about Luke Musgrave. They were saying that about. They always do this. They do this every year. This isn't new. And it just so happens that for once it actually worked out with Laporta, and they've been doing this my whole life. You know what the next example is? Going all the way back, it's Evan Ingram, because Evan Ingram had a really great rookie year. And you want to know who it was before that? Freaking nobody. Because it's like this doesn't happen that often. That rookie tight end is one of the hardest. We say this every year. Tight end is one of the hardest positions to learn. You have to learn route running and blocking and all your assignments. And you come in right out of college and you get no break because you come straight in from college, from playing a bowl game to getting drafted to starting to have to learn all this crap in the NFL. And that's usually why it takes people that play tight end a couple of years. Also, you got to get bigger. You got to physically add mass while you're doing it. This is why it's seeing a tight end succeed in their rookie year is like a black swan event. It's very rare. It's a once in a blue moon kind of thing. It is not the rule. It is the exception. And it's like this doesn't happen that often. And yet every year we have to have this stupid conversation. I've been doing this too long, guys. Sorry. You start noticing the patterns the older you get.
Yeah, super talented tight end.
Yeah,
but again,
it
doesn't really mean a whole lot to me.
If we lived in a world where Sam Laporta didn't exist, we would have been looking at Kincaid's rookie year and been like, "Wow, that's a good rookie tight end year. 75 catches and almost 700 yards. That's
a good year."
And that took an injury.
Yeah, but. Guess who kept Dalton Kincaid off the field? A professional tight end that knows how to block and has the size in Dawson Knox. Same thing's going to happen, I think, with Michael Mayer. He's going to frustratingly keep Brock Bowers off the field, maybe 50%, 60%. So, yeah, it's just not going to happen. Don't waste it. Pick him up in week 8 when he's on the waiver wire, maybe. But
there you go.
Like Kincaid was.
There you go. I like that idea.
Or he has a really favorable matchup. You have the one team that always gives up the touchdowns to tight end. That would be the one week to play him.
Really favorable.
Well, it happens.
How many teams are on bye? 6 in that week? It's this screams bad idea to me. We don't really do the do not draft list anymore because the reality of it is that there's at a certain level, everyone is draftable, depending on what it is. But this would be on the do not draft list if we were still doing it. It would be right near the top.
Hard pass.
It would be like right at the top of like, I am not doing this under any circumstances. This is a hard pass. I'm out. I cannot stress how much I am out on this. This is a really terrible idea. Really terrible. This is like extended warranty. How can I lose? Level terrible idea. Like it's not good. You just, I can't guarantee that he would even have the playing time, as Jason mentioned. The rookie tight end thing is hard enough of a hill to climb. And then the reality of it is, from what my projections are for this team, I think they can literally support 2 pass catchers weekly. 2. Adams is going to get his week in, week out, as long as he's healthy. And Myers sometimes. Everything else I have major questions about. Everything else I have major questions, as we've outlined. And so it's like, I think those are the 2 guys that you can count on getting some level of consistent work. Adams will get very consistent work. Myers will get reasonably consistent work. There will be some weeks where he disappears and is incredibly frustrating. And there will be some weeks where he puts up a 30. And knowing which weeks those are, good luck. Jacoby Myers and best ball to the moon. Redraft where I have to make decisions, I'm less excited. But that's it. And it's like, there's 3 things on this team that I would recommend drafting. Adams, Myers, and White if I was desperate. Like, if I just get skunked at running back hard, and that's where we find ourselves, I could maybe make the argument for White. But outside of those 3 things, I am not interested in any of the rest of this stuff on this team. And I don't think you should be either for your draft. That's where we are.
Woof.
Yep. Agreed.
1, 2,
Frustrating, because normally on bad teams, you get value. And I don't really think we're getting that much value here.
No.
Myers is a loan value. But again, it's risky.
It is risky. I could make the argument, though, similarly to what you did, where it's like the upside sort of like makes it enticing.
Yeah.
But the floor is like in the sub basement, dirty, dank sub basement that you wouldn't want to go into.
Yeah. So Myers missed 4 games last year and only had 3 games of double digits in PPR. That's rough, man.
I know. It's very frustrating.
And he had Austin Hooper, who, I mean, didn't really do. He actually had more targets than Hooper. But again, you're looking at 70. Same thing what I have currently. You have about 70 targets to go to the tight end on this team.
Yeah. And that's why I think people are getting excited about Bowers. But I'm like, no, see, I think it's 70 target split between
Correct.
2 people, which makes them all useless.
Yeah.
All,
and that's kind of that's how I have it.
Yeah.
I have Myers with 50 and Bowers with 25.
Yeah. And it just makes nobody attractive whatsoever. It's just a hard pass. Much of this team is a hard pass, except for the 3 guys that we kind of spent some time on. Like, the rest of it is like, no, I'm good now. Yeah, if you want to talk about anything positive for fantasy, it's that they're going to be bad and they're going to be chasing points. So that does yield opportunity. But
Minshew can do it. So what I'm hearing.
Yeah, not great.
Minshew mania all over again.
I'll say, if anybody is used to being down and chasing points in the 4th quarter, it's Gardner Minshew, baby. That's what he does. It's his whole career is just, Gardner, we're down by 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and he's either going to get you back tied or he's going to throw multiple picks, and the game will be over. That's it. That's what we're doing. So we'll see. Any parting thoughts on the Raiders? Final thoughts. Last call for the Raiders.
Got nothing.
Boo,
positive.
Raiders.
Riveting
my last
analysis
thought.
there. Hey, at least it's not he who shall not be named anymore. At least it's not that. You know what I mean?
It's fine.
It's not fun.
I do like the new coach,
nothing
though.
involving that man is fine.
You know, the new coach has been refreshing.
It has been. It has been refreshing. I don't know if he's gonna
Stick around.
hold on to that job forever,
Yeah.
but
We'll see.
he's got it for this year. Figure it out from there. So with that, tomorrow we are going to do my least favorite day of the year. It's the opposite of Christmas. It's
definitely Christmas for Mike.
It is the opposite of Christmas, where I have to sit here and be annoyed by my co-hosts as we talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. Well, they talk about the Los Angeles Chargers, and I sit and nod politely. and sometimes not so politely, if we're being honest, and in some cases just overtly rudely. That's kind of where we're going. I remember last year, this is where I had to go to the penalty box because I made a couple hand gestures that sent me to the penalty box, and also I ate goldfish for the majority of the show. We're not doing that again. I did consider it. But we're not doing that. So we're gonna do the opposite of Christmas. We're gonna do that. And it's Christmas for you two. So tune in for that tomorrow. Watch Neil's head explode while these two talk about their favorite topic in the universe, which is the Chargers. So tune in for that. And until then, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!